Best seats in any automobile.
Yeah, better than a Velfire. It's also how they do the door shut. It's how they do the lock. Yeah.
E-Class and no ventilator seats.
Yeah.
They say, that Aukat mein raho. I was like, I'm not off. I can't do that. 100 octane fuel is going out of fashion.
$16,000 would be a full tank, I think.
Right? When there's so much of power to be exploited.
Yeah.
But on gravel roads, we did 0 to 160. And on gravel roads, driving at 160 is very, very fast. Welcome to the Evo India podcast. I'm Sirish Chandran, editor at Evo India.
And I'm Aatish Mishra, assistant editor at Evo India.
And we are talking about our week in cars. Now, 2025 actually started off with a bang. Lot of events, lot of drives, and the Auto Expo, the Bharat Mobility Show. So we actually haven't done a week in cars all through January. And so this episode of the Evo India podcast is going to be our January in cars. And we've driven a fair few. Notably, and I made a note of this, the E450, the Go Faster E-Class, the Maybach with the V12 engine, the Toyota Camry, the G580 electric, but our opinions are under embargo, though we have driven it with the G63 and it's given us a fresh perspective on the AMG, which we can talk about obviously. The Kia Syros, or Syros, how do you pronounce that?
It's Syros.
Syros,
yeah.
The Kia Syros, the Land Rover Defender Octa, which I drove in South Africa, and the Creta electric. Now that's not new, but I finally got to drive it during the Great India Drive, and I'm actually pretty impressed with it, so we can talk quickly about it. So Aatish, let's dive straight into it.
Yep.
Should we start with the Syros?
Yeah, let's. I drove the Syros. Very interesting car. You think about what it is, right? It's technically a sub 4 meter SUV, and I put SUV in quotes because it's a crossover. It's like a hatchback with jacked up suspension, cladding all around, and it fits into that sub 4 SUV template that we know. But Kia has done things differently. They've had one focus with that Syros, and that is comfort and space. You know, and the idea is not to give you a compromised anything, and to give you only comfort.
Yeah, I saw that reel that you put up where you showed the amount of space in the back, and we were talking about it in the office, and you said it's as much space as a Mercedes E-Class.
Yeah, knee room, not
knee room.
space.
Okay, but as much knee room as a Mercedes E-Class,
almost,
a long wheelbase E-Class, which is astonishing for anything that is sub 4 meters.
True. It's maybe a little less than an E-Class, but it's millimeters in there. It's a lot of space. So it's really innovative. What they've done is they've used that styling. They've gotten this tall boy design, which is like a box pretty much. And they've put the back seat on rails. Because it's a box, you've got plenty of headroom. So you can slide that rail all the way back into the boot, and then you have tons of knee room.
Yeah, and that is smart because you don't need the boot all the time.
Correct.
It's not every day that you're going to the airport.
It's dead space for 90% of your driving.
Exactly. So for the 90% of the time, you slide the seats at the back and you get... I wonder why nobody else thought about it.
It's really interesting. And
where is the spare wheel?
Good question.
Okay, so that's something that we should find out.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know, but why wouldn't somebody else try that out?
I don't know. And the innovation of it really stood out at me, and I was most impressed by that because it was left field thinking in a really crowded segment. And I actually did a post about this on Instagram, and you look at the sub 4 meter SUV segment. You look at the first movers. They were innovative. The Indigo CS chopped off the Indigo's boot to fit into that role and become cheaper. Yeah. The Desire also was innovative in some way. They took a hatchback and plopped on a boot on there.
Yeah, though the first Desire was not a sub 4 meter. Then afterwards they realized the cost benefits of chopping the boot and then you put that on.
So that was also in a way innovative. The EcoSport was really innovative. They brought a monocoque sub 4 meter crossover with grown up tall
the
styling.
First compact SUV.
Technically, somebody pointed this out in the comments also, that the Premier Rio was actually the first sub 4 meter.
You're right. The Premier Rio was. And if you guys know of a Premier Rio that we can feature on a Gone But Not Forgotten segment, do give us a shout out.
Yeah, but the Premier Rio was a monocoque. So technically, the Premier Rio was a body on frame.
Oh.
SUV.
So was it rear wheel drive?
Oh, no, it was monocoque, correct. Yeah.
It was monocoque.
Yeah,
it was a Chinese SUV.
Yeah.
In fact, the Premier Rio, I think, was the first Chinese car to come to India.
Possibly.
That was its claim to fame.
Possibly.
Or infame.
But it just wasn't that evolved. You know, it wasn't comfortable. It was not great to
and
drive.
it was too cramped,
Yeah.
and it had
Didn't
that
have
very
space.
nice engine. It had that Fiat 1.3 diesel
Yeah.
engine. That was the only saving grace of that vehicle, to be honest.
Yeah. But the EcoSport set that template.
Yes.
Yes. And then everybody that has followed. You look at any of the SUVs that have followed, you look at any of the sedans that have followed. They follow the same template. They've taken their design language, put it into that format, jacked up suspension. They've put their interior language, and it's compromised on space, but they've tried to do like good ride quality, but they've tried to do good handling, and they've tried to give you ground clearance, and they've tried to give you everything. But in the mix of that, a lot also gets compromised.
Definitely. It is a compromised formula, end of the day.
And what gets compromised the most is space. Because and honestly, for a designer, that's the hardest thing to do, right? How do you give space in such a small footprint? And Indian customers are demanding, they've always demanded space. So Kia has gone and thought left field and innovated. The Triber did innovate.
Yes.
You know, they had those modular back row
100%.
seats which you could take out. That was very
100%.
cool.
Yep.
And I think that was the only other car that has innovated in the sub 4 meter segment since.
But the thing is, the problem with the Triber is that innovated at the start, and then all the innovation that should have come, like putting a more powerful engine, everything, nothing came, which is very strange.
And that execution, I think, has not made the Triber as desirable as it should be. It's a very cool car. Sub 4 meter MPV. Who'd think about that? But the Syros innovates, and because it's Kia, they know how to make desirable cars as well. You know, everyone's hating on the styling.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that. That the styling, when you look at it in the flesh, does it look okay?
It's oddball. I mean, it's not conventional.
Because when I saw it, when it was unveiled in Delhi, I was like, oh my God.
No, it is odd. There's no denying that. It's a new design language for Kia. You actually see this design language a little bit on the EV3, on the EV9. The new cars have that headlamps in the corners and...
Yeah, but this is to me, the first tall boy SUV.
Yeah.
Or the first SUV that's pretending to be a tall boy, or tall boy pretending to be an SUV, whatever you call it.
So the aesthetics are not to everyone's taste. And I don't hate it, but I don't love it either. I'm indifferent to it. And to me, I'm okay with dealing with that styling because of what you're getting on the inside, you know. And being a Kia, they've not scrounged on features. Features are great. You've got lots of screens inside. You've got great quality. The quality is really good, actually.
Oh, really?
Like even the quality of plastics. It's not scratchy plastics. They've used a lot of recycled plastics, but they feel high quality. They don't feel cheap. Space is good.
Yeah. And they have also announced prices.
Yeah.
The prices also are attractive.
Yes. Starts at, I think, 9 lakhs for the turbo petrol manual, which is little more expensive than a Sonnet, you know, and we thought it would be a lot more expensive than a Sonnet. At the top end, it's 17 lakhs for the diesel automatic, which, little expensive.
So this is not an Exter rival.
No,
we always thought that this was Kia's version of the Exter.
This is a sub 4 meter plus, you know, so it's like you have.
So this uses the Sonnet platform?
It uses the K1 platform,
which is
the Grand i10 platform.
Okay.
But heavily reinforced. It's about 150 kgs heavier than a Sonnet.
Oh, finally.
Yeah.
Finally, cars are becoming heavier because of the reinforcements and safety and everything.
Exactly.
Otherwise, cars were like, no, from a ton to 900 to 850 to 800, like, oh my God, where's it going?
So it's a heavy car. But I think they are targeting good crash safety. Nothing has been announced yet.
Yeah, but now with Bharat NCAP, everybody has to do it. So I think thank you, government. Thank you.
So that's a good thing. Engines are nice. You've got the turbo petrol. I didn't drive that. I drove the diesel. I think the diesel is well suited to it because it's not a sporty car. It's not even trying to be sporty. That lazy diesel torque delivery is just perfect for it. With the automatic, it's smooth, it's nice, it's creamy.
But with that diesel and the automatic, you'll probably get a range of some 900 kilometers, 800, 900 kilometers.
Probably,
so it's great, man.
Yeah, and great efficiency.
I think diesels still make a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
I'm still a big diesel fan.
I've just got a Jeep Compass diesel long term. I'm really excited to use it.
Yeah. So I was outside. I had the Q8 e-tron and I wanted to park it inside to charge it.
Yeah.
The windows were up. The Q8 e-tron has got very good sound insulation. Anand fired up the Compass and I heard it. So before you knew that the diesel Compass had arrived, I knew that the diesel Compass had arrived.
True. I haven't even driven it yet. The boys in the office are all having a good time with it right now. But once the G Wagons that are in the office leave, I'll probably get my hands on it.
Okay. So G Wagon.
Yes.
Yesterday, before filming, we went and drove the G580 electric and the G63 AMG.
Yeah.
Our opinions on the G580 are under embargo. Okay, we have the specs. We can tell you the specs. The G63 AMG gets to 104.2 seconds. The 580, the electric gets in there in 4.7 seconds.
Yeah.
So in terms of performance, they are more or less there. The G580 has got this electric roar, which, can we talk about it?
I think giving our impressions would be...
Okay, so I can't tell you about G roar.
Yet.
We did the tank turn,
Yes.
the G turn, which is extremely okay.
Can't
Can't tell you. Watch the reel on our Instagram handle. But what I can tell you is that the G580 does not get the semi-active suspension, the active ride suspension that the new G63 get. And remember, this is the new generation of the G class. This is not the earlier. So, for instance, the G400D, that is the previous generation. This is an all-new generation, even though it looks the same.
It looks the same for the last 70 years.
Yeah, but
not
it's
70, what is it?
whatever.
Since the 70s.
But this is a new generation.
Yeah.
With this generation, there is no diesel as of now.
Yeah.
The G63, it gets that active ride suspension, which it eliminates the need for anti-roll bars. It reduces pitch and dive and squat and body roll. Despite that, because of that enormous amount of power and the way it is shaped and the weight, you still have a lot of squat when you take off.
Yeah. But that's more the torque when you take off.
It's because of the way the whole car is set up, and also because it looks very cool when
it's
you
probably
do that.
engineered in there as well.
That it's got that drag lights and a drag mode and everything. But when you go down corners, bloody hell, that G63, it doesn't feel like a G63.
Not at all.
Earlier, your knuckles would go wide. You would think you're going to go in the divider or fall off the mountain. It was scary. But this, the way it goes around corners,
it's
is
unbelievable, right?
Incredible. We've said this before, but it begs saying again that G63 is out of this world.
And handling is one thing, and not everyone's going to be chasing apexes, but just body control.
The ride.
The ride quality. When you go over just an expansion joint in a bridge, the older G classes would
kick.
Yeah, they would kick you, and you would go flying in your seat.
You would know about it.
This is like a whoop, and it just soaks it up, and it's just tied down. It's solid. It feels like planted. It feels like you can, actually cover ground in this without worrying about anything. And it's just
unbelievably good. Except 100-liter tank, it drinks 98 octane, 100 octane fuel like it's going out of fashion.
$16,000 would be a full tank, I think. If
but it sounds mental.
What was the fuel economy we were getting yesterday?
Yesterday, I drove it back. It was some 3.5.
Yeah, and when you're launching it all day for shoots, it's like 2 kmpl or something.
But the G63 has my heart.
Yeah.
3.6 crores, that's unimaginably expensive.
But if you have it, take it and go.
But G63, it really has my heart. In fact, somebody I know in Goa, yesterday when we were testing it, he called. And he said that the dealer's only offering this with 22-inch wheels. I said, Goa, roads are not great, sidewall get cut, stiff. I said, no man, with this active ride suspension, no problem, your back won't break. And we've driven that car. That test car came earlier also. We did a little bit of off-roading, not much, honestly, because 22-inch wheels, we're not mad.
And more than anything, it's the scare of a sidewall getting cut or anything.
But we haven't had any problems with that. So with 22-inch wheels also, otherwise earlier, we would always recommend for owning, living with it, I've always recommended the G350 in the past, the diesel, over the G63.
Yeah, 100%.
Because it was just so much more usable. But with this G63, it's so good, that...
fuel economy aside, there's nothing to complain about anymore.
If you can afford a 3.6 crore rupee car plus tax and all that, who cares, man? You can spend on fuel. That has my heart.
Yes.
Nothing came close to it.
Yes.
Except now Land Rover has a G63 kind of rival.
Which you drove.
The Defender Octa.
Tell me about that.
So Land Rover is going to get into the Dakar.
Yeah.
So 2026, Jan, we're going to see the Defender Octa in the production category.
Yeah, that was my question to you. Is it going to be a prototype? Are they doing like a prototype with a Defender body? Or?
No. So they aren't doing like the Hilux prototypes or the Dacia Sand Riders or that Ford Raptor. Those are all space frame rally cars with a body on it. So they're not doing that. They're doing the production category, which up till now has been sort of like a Land Cruiser class. All the Toyota Land Cruisers. It's also like a Japanese class because I think half of that grid is all Japanese enthusiasts driving.
Oh, really?
And typically of these Japanese competitors, they've got maybe 200 sponsors plastered on the car. So somebody gave you brakes, somebody gave you lights, 200 sponsors. But it's a Land Cruiser category.
Yeah.
They're getting into that. Apparently the rules are going to change. So these cars, the production cars, are going to get faster. So they won't get like completely outshone by the prototypes. And I think it's more sensible because like the Dacia Sandriders, it doesn't look anything like a Duster. How is Renault India going to get any marketing value out of Dacia taking part in the Dakar? Zero. The Ford Raptor kind of looks like the Raptor, but I think it's more the name that they want to develop. The Hilux, at least on the front, it looks like a Hilux.
From the back, it does not at all.
So with the production category, there is more of a connect.
Yeah.
So that's the class that the Octa will be taking part in. The Octa that I drove is the 5-door, the 130. It's not the short wheelbase 90. Sorry, it's the 110. What am I saying? It's not the long wheelbase 130, not the short wheelbase 90. It's the 110. And the reason for that is they say right now, the 6D suspension, which is also a semi-active suspension, they say it can't fit on the 90. And in any case, the 110 has, it got 80% of the volumes of Defender. So it makes sense to set it up for that. The Defender Octa is half about the suspension, half about the engine. What do you want me to talk about first?
Let's start with engine.
Okay, engine. It's not the supercharged Land Rover V8. It's the 4.4 liter V8 twin turbo from BMW.
Yeah.
It's the same spec as the earlier M5 Competition Sport.
Interesting.
So it's a mild hybrid. It's not the hybrid in the current M5.
Yeah.
But it's fast, man. It is fast. It goes like a bullet. Now, my only criticism about that, and I said that in the video also, it's there on the Evo India channel, is that it doesn't sound as vocal, as shouty, as theatrical as the G63.
And you've driven both in a week, so you have full perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe they should have had a sport exhaust button just to open it out when you want to be naughty.
Yeah, true.
Right? That's my only real criticism about the engine. Otherwise, it's a very smooth engine mated to that lovely ZF 8-speed automatic gearbox.
Yeah.
It is fast. It's got enough and more go for the Octa. Now, to handle all that, they need good suspension.
Yeah.
They've got this Tenneco 6D dampers, which is basically semi-active dampers. They are interlinked, hydraulic. And what it does, again, is that it supports the damper that needs supporting. For instance, when you floor it, there is dive. The hydraulic dampers support the rear dampers to make sure that there's not too much of squat. When you launch, you have squat. When you brake, you have dive. Again, there, the front dampers need support. And that's where more damping goes to the front, less to the rear, to make sure that the nose doesn't dive too much.
And it must be having some 100th of a millisecond reaction time or something like that, no?
Crazy.
Yeah.
And that means it can handle well.
Yeah.
They took us to a rally track, belting it. And it doesn't feel like it's, all over the place and it's too big an SUV to handle all of that. South Africa, it's the benefits of not having much population. So 2 hours out of Cape Town and we hit dirt roads, which are public highways. It's got 80 kilometers per hour speed limit.
What are you saying?
Dirt roads, which are graded. So I saw one fellow with a tractor grading the roads to make sure it is smooth gravel. And it's a rally driver's absolute wet dream. It's smooth, it's fast, there's nothing coming at you.
Yeah.
We had an instructor, he was ahead of us. Obviously, we're keeping distance because all the dust being... And when somebody came, occasionally you would say, okay, slow down, somebody's coming. Others were driving like as if we were on a rally stage. Full flat. And that was over there. There you really felt the way the suspension was working.
Yeah.
We went up some mountain passes like what we have in Ladakh, which is a little rough. You can go fast over that because the suspension soaks it all in. So later on we realized that a regular Defender will do all of that. But it would take more effort. It would be more tiring. And after a while you'll be like, why are we doing this? Whereas in the Octa, you can drive it, you can hammer it down those roads. It soaks it all up and you have a lot of fun. The only second drawback, it's got these extreme off-road tires. Goodyear's 20-inch, crazy off-road tires, hardcore off-road tires. And because of legislation in, I think, North America, in Germany, if you spec your car with those Goodyear tires, it's limited to a 160 km per hour top speed. So on the highway, if it's open and there's no speed limits or nobody's catching you for speed limits, you'll be at 160 and be like, right? When there's so much of power to be exploited.
Yeah.
But on gravel roads, we did 0 to 160. And on gravel roads,
Yeah.
driving at 160 is very, very fast. You need to be smart about what you're doing. You need to have good reflexes.
Yeah.
The steering, the ratio is quickened. It's got the same ratio as the Range Rover Sport SVR.
Okay.
So it's quick steering
Yeah.
in that big 2.5 ton, 5 point something meter SUV. But because of that quick steering, you can apply corrective lock. The tail doesn't snap out. It comes out progressively because of the way it is set up. The yaw angle is like well judged. And it is easy to drive really, really fast.
So it's a Defender rally car.
It's a rally Defender.
They used to have a Bowler Defender earlier,
Yeah, but
right?
Bowler is like a maybe what Alpina is to BMW.
They're an
Though-
external
consultancy.
So there's a factory.
This is like a factory rally car,
Yeah.
which is really nice. Really nice. I was very impressed.
And they bring it to India.
They're bringing it to India.
Okay.
I fell off my chair when I saw the price, 2.85 crores.
So it's
estimated
G63
price.
territory also.
So it is G63 territory.
Yeah.
But the Defender is selling.
Yeah.
The Range Rovers are selling. The Discovery Sport Evoque, maybe not that much.
Yeah.
But for Defender, there is a waiting period. It's a very cool, desirable car.
But do you think people would pay 2.8 whatever plus tax?
See, this is the edition one, and I think India will probably get 5, 10, because I think it's
Yeah.
limited to some 3,000 cars.
Acha, okay, it's limited
world over.
globally also.
So the first year is only edition one.
Okay.
After that is the other thing. So maybe like a hero car, a dozen cars come to India, you will have buyers. Because people know today, people are educated, and there is spending power. And this is a very cool car to spend on.
Yeah, and it's not like doesn't look like a regular because of the wide track.
So
And-
it's lifted. It's some 28 mm higher. It's
Yeah.
some 68 mm wider.
Yeah.
Those tires, if I were to spend that money, I would spec with those mad Goodyears.
yeah,
Even though 160 kilometers per hour
Just
top
for
speed
the
limit,
vibes.
it just looks so cool. On the back, it's got that motorsport wheel. So on the back,
Yeah.
that wheel with that chunky off-road tire looks so cool.
Yeah.
The front end is slightly reprofiled to let more air go into the engine bay. So it's a little bit more angry looking. It's got this chopped carbon, which is okay. It's a good way to extract money out of customers. Insides, I thought they should have had a little bit more wow-wow-voom. It looks too much like a regular Defender.
yeah,
But to drive, that's an insane amount of fun. To give you a comparison between the G63 and the Octa, and a comparison which probably nobody ever asked, but I shall still. The Octa is more capable. It'll be faster off-road. Ultimate off-roading ability, probably the Octa will be better because it's got height adjustable air suspension, so you can get more.
it has
right-
low range and all of that.
It has low range.
Huh.
Yeah. So we did rock crawling.
Yeah,
We did the dune bashing. We did everything
Yeah.
with that car. So probably the Defender would be a little bit better off-road because of that sheer fact that it can get a little bit more in terms of ground clearance. 1 meter water bearing depth.
Yeah.
1 meter,
it's insane.
which is hell of a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe up a very steep rocky climb, the G63 with
Yeah.
the
Diffs.
3 locking differentials would probably get a little bit more traction. But again, this is all in the realm
It's
of
hypothetical. Yeah,
probability.
we don't know.
But on a fast off-road road,
Yeah.
the G63, even with this suspension, will still not be as planted as the Defender Octa.
True.
But the G63, that ladder frame, the feel that it gives you, it's very intangible. There are no numbers to justify it. There's no way of quantifying it.
And it's not just the frame. It's also how they do the door shut. It's how
Yeah,
they do the
ka-tank!
lock. Yeah, how they do the locks. It's got some old school charm to
Yeah,
it. You know?
that just, it draws at your heartstrings.
Yeah.
It's like I said, no, you can't put a figure to it. But it's just that old world charm
Yeah.
now layered with modern tech,
Yeah.
modern suspension technology. It always had a lot of power, but modern suspension technology transforms it. So that is Defender Octa.
Yep.
I think it's extremely, extremely cool. And Land Rover, JLR in India, they are the ones to watch out for. Because quietly, post-COVID, they were pretty nowhere.
Yeah.
But now they've picked up their business.
And they're building slowly.
They're building steadily.
Yeah.
The slow phase, I think, is now over. Now their volumes are coming in. You see so many Defenders. Every Defender spec'd slightly differently.
Yeah.
Some have got those side panniers on it. You look at a Defender and you look twice. You look thrice. Because
100%.
it still looks so cool.
Yeah.
The Range Rover screams money.
Yeah.
I don't think even Maybach screams money as a Range Rover does.
100%. Yeah.
So they are on a very good wicket and I wish them all the best. And speaking about Maybach,
Oh yeah, you drove the V12 Maybach.
my year ended and started. So 2024 ended and 2025 started with the Maybach with the V12.
Yeah.
I was going to drive to Cochin
Okay.
for a short break, and that came. And they said, yeah, sure, take it. And I drove a little bit in Pune, and I said, no, man, it's too big. It's too much. Even for me,
Yeah.
as extrovert as I am, driving from Pune to Kochi in a V12 Maybach, forget the fact that every 2 hours you'll probably be stopping for fuel,
Yeah.
because it'll be impossible to resist the charms of a V12. I regret it, but it'll have been too much. Too much. And that is opulence.
Yeah.
The wheels. And Maybach is now going the Louis Vuitton way, where LV logos all over the bags and all that, monogram. The wheels have got Maybach logos all over the place. This is the dark edition or night edition.
Okay, yeah. Black.
Night edition. Night series.
Night series, yeah.
Blacked out interiors. Those seats are the best seats in any automobile.
Yeah. Better than a welfare?
Better than a welfare, yeah. Those seats, Mercedes seats. Maybe Rolls-Royce, yeah. Rolls-Royce. Actually, Rolls-Royce also, most of the versions that we drove, when I went to drive the Series 2 Ghost, were like, they don't have that business class kind of seating. Maybe that can be option, but I have not experienced it. So even compared to that, these Maybach seats are something else. And that the interior and everything. Okay, so that's one side. Right? But that V12 engine.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Power is one thing, but the creaminess of the power delivery, the buttery smoothness layered over that bubble,
Woofle.
it's the woofle. It's out there in the distance. You can see that the Mercedes logo out there in the distance. You know there's a nuclear reactor of an engine out in the distance. You tickle the throttle and it just a little bit, and then you floor it, go, and that overarching impression of massive power somewhere out there.
And you're probably using 10% of it.
And it's there. And then every time you tickle the throttle, then when you get a little bit of an open road, you step on it and then, oh man, that feel of money. Okay, the G63 costs a lot of money. I wouldn't say it feels like money. The Maybach, it felt like money. And that's why I didn't drive it to Kochi. I was like, they say, that Aukat mein raho. I was like, I'm not off. I can't do that. And if anything were to happen, you know how the highways are and everything. But those couple of days,
even a wheel would hurt the soul if you nicked
just impossible. Drove it around a little bit in Pune, drove it to Chakan, back, and it's something else. The experience is.
You know what I love about these Maybach V12s? They start in second gear.
Yep.
Because there's so much torque, and it needs. If you're in first, it would probably be a jhatka. They start in second gear, so the guy at the back is just chilled out.
And it's the same with the Rolls-Royce. Even the Rolls-Royce starts in second gear. If you put it into L, that low mode, only then does it start in first.
Phenomenal.
But it's so cool, right? And Mercedes in India are going to double down on Maybach. Now, at the Auto Expo, they had a Maybach corner, and they're going to start these Maybach boutiques. I think the first one is coming up in Bangalore, where you can buy Maybach branded sunglasses or something. They're first going to introduce, and it's going to come to India, the SL Maybach edition. What is that?
It's a concept right now, I think.
It's a concept, So it's an SL.
Which is Maybach.
Maybach monogrammed, and it's the same V8 engine, 577 bhp and all that. So it's not about the power. It's about the exclusivity.
I don't mind them doing this, but I just hope they also do an SL Black series like they did some time ago with the hard top, I mean, luxury is cool, but do some sporty stuff.
So lots of Maybach over this year that we'll be talking about.
And it makes sense. I mean, they're building Maybachs in India. Okay, not the V12, but the V8 is made here. And it's priced well because of that.
So Mercedes has established AMG. AMG is a very strong brand in India. Now they're going to do that with Maybach also. So they'll have Mercedes, they'll have Maybach, they'll have AMG. So they have like 3 separate identities that they're carving out for themselves.
And if anyone knows how to sell luxury cars in India, it's them.
And notice I didn't say EQ. Because EQE, EQS, time is running out for them. And very soon it'll be electric E-Class, like how G580 with EQ technology, which is basically G580 electric or electric G-Class, is going to be that, because that whole EQ branding thing hasn't worked.
Yeah.
But AMG works, Maybach works, and Mercedes works. In fact, talking about Mercedes, I should point out, I also drove the E450, the E-Class with the 6-cylinder engine, the Go Faster E-Class. They did launch, launched all three together, but obviously the 4-cylinder petrols and diesels, that were out first.
Yeah, they came to us first also.
Yeah. Now E450 deliveries have started. So should you buy an E450?
If you're buying an E-Class and you can stretch to a 450, I would wholeheartedly recommend it just for that effortlessness. We drove the E200 and the weak point was the engine, especially in contrast to the 5 Series, which had a more powerful engine.
Yeah.
The 6-cylinder in this, man, that you want your luxury car to feel effortless. You don't want it to be straining. Straining is not luxury.
Yeah.
And the 450 takes care of that.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. I asked my colleague Prashant, he went to test it. I had driven it before. I asked him that, okay, what do you think about it? And he looked very sheepish and he like trying to hide into his chair, and he said, like, I can't find anything to criticize.
Yeah.
And he is spot on.
Yeah.
There is really nothing to criticize.
Actually, I would criticize one thing. I think they should have done more to differentiate it on the inside. They've done a lot on the outside. AMG Line, they've got the AMG wheels, they've got that body kit, they've done and they've got new lights, the laser or matrix lights or whatever, the fancy headlights. And on the inside, it's the same. Something on the inside to feel a little more special. Maybe ventilated seats or massagers or elevate the inside as well. Only criticism.
Yeah, that's what. No ventilated seats in an E-Class is...
Syros gets ventilated back seats.
Yeah, so that's a big miss.
Yeah.
Probably it would have cost a lot of money to have ventilated seats.
Maybe.
But still, E-Class and no ventilated seats.
Yeah. And no, not even in the front. It's not front or rear.
Yeah, that's very strange. But this E450 also handles better because it's got 4MATIC.
Yes.
So it puts it power down better. So you're gunning it around a corner. You can get on the throttle earlier. It doesn't understeer as early. There is still the same amount of body roll as the earlier E-Class. And the E-Class does roll a fair bit more than the 5 Series.
Do you think they should have spec the suspension up, maybe put dynamic dampers?
See, even a car like this, okay, you would probably through the week, you would be chauffeured, right? This is your weekend car where you enjoy it. Like, what joy is there to be stuck in traffic in Delhi or Gurgaon or Bombay or Pune? There is really not that much joy. So here, you have all the luxuries of a regular E-Class.
True.
The space, the back seat, no ventilation, but everything else is there. And then on the weekend, you take the wheel, or when you go on a road trip, you take this on a road trip and you enjoy the power and
comfort.
I drove. So after I spent New Year's in Kochi, and then I drove from Kochi to Mumbai in a friend's E-Class, in the diesel E-Class. And it is really good. So I can actually give you like a long-term ownership experience of the E-Class. The boot is absurdly small for such a large car. 4 people. I told my friends to pack light. Their version of packing light is not a 500-liter suitcase, but a 400-liter suitcase. I took soft bags, so luckily we could squeeze it at the back. But sitting in the back, there were bags all around us. My laptop bag also was in the middle. And so the boot is absurdly small. Everything fully loaded, it touches on speed breakers. So you have to grab speed breakers. But apart from that, you drive it fast even over wavy roads. It doesn't weave, it doesn't float, it doesn't bottom out, it handles well. It feels capable of cruising at high triple-digit speeds. Very nice. And the diesel economy, I think half a tank to Bangalore and then 1 tank from Bangalore to Pune.
Diesels are...
And driving like, like, I wanted to get back to Pune. So, like, really driving. We left Bangalore at 5 in the morning and I was home in Pune by 4.
Lovely.
Yeah, so it's excellent. That E-Class is excellent.
Interesting observation. The E450 doesn't have a direct rival from BMW. Yeah, they have the petrol engine. It's a little more powerful than the E-Class in the 5
but
Series.
Still it's a 4-cylinder.
Correct.
Yeah.
BMW has the M340i, which doesn't have a direct rival with Mercedes.
Yep.
And a lot of people, actually a friend of mine also, was considering these 2 cars. They want a 6-cylinder engine. They don't want 4-cylinder. 4-cylinder is beneath them. You've grown up driving bigger engine cars in the family. You want a big engine for yourself. these are the two options, that they have in from the Mercedes and BMW stable. And I think obviously the guys tending towards comfort will pick the E-Class, and the guys tending towards sportiness will pick the M340i. But this is technically Mercedes and BMW again playing to their strengths, where they've all tried to muddy the waters and mix things up in the last couple of years, try to grab each other's pies. This is playing to your strengths in a way.
So the reason why Mercedes doesn't have a M340i rival is that the CLA 35 just didn't work in India. It was too low. It touched over everything, and that engine, the 4-cylinder engine, while it's great,
But
and this is
wouldn't
not the 45, the 35 also.
Wouldn't the M340i rival be a C-class, C300?
But in India, it was more that. So the C43, for
Actually,
instance.
there is a C300 in India, right?
The C300 is there in India.
Is that a 4?
But that's a 4-cylinder.
That's a 4-cylinder,
Yeah. And that's the petrol, Yeah, but that's the 4-cylinder. So AMG hasn't had a M340i rival. Maybe it'll come. But
and the M340i does well.
Yeah.
That's a segment waiting to be...
But the new 43s are that mild hybrid, and those engines aren't assembled in India because they're complicated engines. So until their partner Force gets, or Mercedes probably haven't asked them to assemble it or whatever, until that gets sorted out, like the GLC 43.
Yeah.
Excellent.
It got so expensive because of that.
Yeah. But it's a CBU, priced, it's way out.
Yeah.
So that's why M340i assembled in India, great pricing, great segment. It's a great starter performance car. The Octavia RS used to be that, but we don't have an Octavia RS.
Which
but
is
it's coming
back.
Yeah.
Coming back.
But at what price?
Who knows?
That M340i is sitting there.
Yeah.
So Skoda can't take the Octavia pricing.
See how
like
much
close
higher
there,
will they take it? If it's a CBU, what will it be? I mean, the Superb was
50 lakhs.
Yeah, so it'll be around that, maybe a little
And
more
I read
than
recently some 16 lakh discount on that. But that would be obvious, no? Who would buy it at 50 lakhs?
that. Yeah.
So anyway, speaking about the Superb, there is only one sedan at 45-50 lakhs. 46 lakhs to be precise.
Yeah.
And that's the Toyota Camry.
Which we've been driving.
Yep. There's no Accord. There's no Sonata. There is no nothing.
Yeah.
So it's the Camry is in a class of its own.
Yeah.
I always thought the Camry was too expensive. Skoda brought the Superb at 50 lakhs. Now Camry prices look okay. Yeah. And in fact, for this, what they call a new generation, 9th generation Camry, the prices only went up by 1.8 lakhs.
48 lakhs or something now, right?
No, it is 46 lakhs from 44 or something.
Okay.
It's 46 lakhs now. So they haven't gone absurd with the pricing. I don't think it's an all new generation, to be honest. It's the same TNGA platform. Like I said yesterday, the dampers are slightly firmed up. So going around corners, it feels a little bit more settled. The ride is very good. In fact, I think the ride is slightly better than the outgoing Camry.
I actually ran that as a long-termer for 3 months, if you remember.
Yeah.
So I'm quite excited. I haven't driven the new one yet.
Yeah, so it's downstairs.
It's
I'll
done.
take the 580 from you, the G580, and you can
So
take
we're
the
swapping
Camry.
cars after this podcast. And
But I've made a note on the phone, and if there was any argument to be made against electric cars, the Camry hybrid would be it.
absolutely.
Yesterday, so we had a shoot, we took the Camry, okay, so we took a lot of cars for the shoot. When I got back, okay, I had to pick up something from the Camry, started it because I had to just go and park it into the other parking spot. It showed 18.5 kmpl. This is a whole day of driving. We did some shoots with it, we did some launches to just see how the performance.
Yeah.
Whole day's driving, 18.5 kmpl. Which 2.5 liter petrol engine will give you that kind of power?
Ridiculous. Yeah.
That kind of fuel efficiency. And in terms of power, there is no dearth of power. It does 0 to 100 in some 7.8.
250 horsepower.
Yeah. So there is no dearth of power. It's got enough power. I think it's excellent. That fuel economy is really good. Very smooth powertrain. I remember in the past saying that the Camry, when the engine kicks in, you just can't make out that the engine is kicked in. I think now our sense of perception or whatever has got elevated.
Because you're driving EVs?
I think so. Because now every time that engine kicks in, I'm like, I can make out that the engine is kicking in.
Yeah.
And it's noticeable. In the past, I think because we were using diesel so much that we didn't care, it didn't bother us at all.
Or it was because comparing it to diesels, it felt negligible.
And compared to those days, even petrol engines weren't all that smooth.
Yeah.
But now with us being used to electrics, like you're saying also, every time that engine kicks in is like a moment.
You notice it.
You notice it.
No, I get what you're saying, but it's not a bad notice it.
Not at all.
You know?
Not at all. But it's noticeable now.
Yeah.
Now I won't write that,
It's
engine kicking in is, you won't notice it.
Yeah.
Now you will notice it.
Fair enough.
You also notice the CVT effect. When you floor it, goes, oh. So that's also there.
Yeah.
But again, a Camry is not meant to be driven like an Octavia RS,
So, when I had the Camry 3 months, it didn't go out of the city with me because just somehow or the other, those 3 months I didn't travel out.
Yeah.
I didn't need to take the Camry out. It's so peaceful.
Yeah.
You don't even notice the CVT effect. I didn't notice it in the Camry that we were driving because I didn't need to.
The seats are comfortable.
Brilliant
There's
seats.
so much of space. Now they've sorted out the interiors also, so it's got wireless CarPlay.
Mm.
But strangely, it's got wired Android Auto. Yeah. It's got a regular sunroof. Doesn't bother me, but I think buyers get
But it's a sedan.
hassled. I don't know. The front seats are ventilated, no massagers. Rear seats are not ventilated, but it reclines.
Yeah.
Space, boss mode controls.
And it still has that armrest with the control panel.
With the control panel.
Yeah.
So it's got electric rear sunblind operation.
Yeah.
And side is manual.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
And the
You
control
can
panel
use
is nice because you not only the blinds, but you control the AC, you can control
Yes.
the volume.
Yep.
All of that, it's just at your fingertips
Yeah,
at the
and
back.
now with wireless CarPlay, you can sit at the back and you can control your tracks and your volume. You don't have to ask the driver to turn down the volume. It retains lots of physical buttons.
Yeah, I noticed.
A whole bunch of buttons. So physical volume knob, physical climate control, lot of buttons on the side, on the steering wheel. It's festooned with buttons.
Toyota doesn't get pulled into fads. No? They've retained their buttons, they've retained their engines, they've retained everything.
But the Camry actually is very nice. And now with that hammerhead styling, it also looks quite good. Huh?
Looks very good.
Yeah, it's like people, that grey probably not the most striking color for the Camry.
But
Though a typical Camry color, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I think a Camry in white would actually look very
It's a
nice.
big car. It's size. It's
Yes.
got size on its size.
it
It's
is.
low slung. It's got. It's not very tall in terms of its ride height. So it's not jacked up for India and all of that. So it's a nice looking car.
Yeah, so the Camry hybrid is my surprise of the month. To be honest.
Interesting. Yeah.
I didn't go to Bangalore to drive it. We were like, it was also, we were on holiday and I didn't want to break my holiday to go and, but it's turned out to be a very pleasant surprise. And I would really recommend it.
Yeah.
And in a city, like suppose you were running the Superb in the city, you would got maybe 8 kmpl from the turbo petrol engine.
Probably,
On the highway, obviously, a lot of joy to be had out of it. But in the city, 7-8 kmpl. In the city, the Camry hybrid gives 18.
Yeah. It's crazy.
So, as an ownership proposition, plus Toyota's quality, reliability, legendary.
Nothing goes wrong.
You can swear by it.
Yeah.
Nothing will ever go wrong. Nobody has anything bad to say. In fact, they have only positive things to say about Toyota quality and reliability. So, as a luxurious, headache-free, hassle-free, and now genuinely good-looking car, the Camry hybrid, it hits all the right things. And I didn't drive it with 5 people on board, but with 3 people, doesn't touch on speed breakers either. So
so Camry hybrid.
Yep.
I think it's championing the sedans in a segment that actually has moved entirely to SUVs.
To SUVs, yeah. So the question is, would you buy a sedan with Camry hybrid or an SUV, of which there are maybe half a dozen or 2 dozen? I don't know.
Yeah.
And another surprise was the Creta electric.
Yeah, you mentioned you drove it finally.
So I drove it to Dasara. Hyundai had the Great India Drive. It's an annual property that they do. So this time it was going into the Run of Kutch. So I drove it from the airport in Ahmedabad to Dasara. Electric car, okay, there's no joy of a turbo petrol. Like the N line would be a little bit nicer. You'll smile. This one does everything. It says exactly what is written on the tin.
Exactly.
It's an electric car, and that's what you get. So there's no rear wheel drive. It's front wheel drive. In fact, when you switch off ESP, you floor it, and if there's like sand or gravel on the road, the wheels spin up and it stays spinned up. So like, see, like you're like, whoa, what's going on? It's like it really spins up those front tires. It's got enough performance. Doesn't need any more performance. It's heavier, obviously, because of the batteries, and there is more vertical movement, so it's not as settled as a regular Creta, either diesel or the petrol. But it's inoffensive.
Yeah.
It does everything that you want. It has got enough space. It's comfortable. It drives well. There is nothing that you would look at, point to, and say, this one needs an update or this should not be there. Apart from
Apple CarPlay.
no wireless Apple CarPlay.
Yeah.
But apart from that, and that too, you have to run CarPlay using a USB-A, not even USB-C. Now, who has USB-A cables either?
Correct.
But apart from that, keep that aside, it does everything. And so now there'll be a whole slew of rivals. Mahindra has just announced prices for the Pack 1 also. So I think 18.5 lakhs or something, or 18.9 lakhs. That's where the electric range starts. The Creta electric is slightly cheaper. Obviously, it's got a smaller battery. What Hyundai is saying is that most of the bookings are for the higher spec versions with the larger battery, because that's what people want.
Yeah.
With the Mahindras, we've also said it, that a few things need to be sorted out. It needs a software update, all of that. There's a lot of stuff on it. It drives really well. But the Creta does exactly what a Creta is supposed to do.
It just
and
works.
India is full of Creta buyers, or people who want Cretas. And the Creta electric caters exactly to that audience.
Yeah.
And also, if you look at it in the larger perspective, Mahindra have invested like tons and tons and tons into the BE and XE. It has to work for them.
Yeah.
With the electric, this is a ICE to EV conversion.
Yeah.
This can run for maybe 2 years, and then they'll have their born EVs or
And
their
this is
EV
all using
only
technology that they already have in the group.
that they already have.
They've not had to like
So,
reinvent the wheel or
yeah,
anything.
so it's not like they put all their eggs into that basket.
Yeah.
So it's like for them also easy way to get their first electric car for India. The Creta is there. No, the Creta is Hyundai's.
Yeah.
No,
It's a bestseller.
bestseller. No, the spotlight is on the Creta for them. And I think this is a great way to start off their electric car journey, and
I
then
agree,
obviously
yeah.
bring the more interesting cars as days progress.
Yeah. Completely agree.
So are we done with our list, or have we missed out on anything else?
I think so.
Yep. So actually, we are done with our list. Those are the cars that we drove in January. What would be your highlight?
I didn't drive half the things. You drove
so
most
yes,
of them.
Okay. So
But
for
yeah,
your highlight-
G63. I can't complain.
Yeah, okay,
That's
so
definitely a
G63.
highlight.
And the surprise to me was the Camry hybrid, and of
Yeah.
course the Octa, driving the Octa, and so very good cars that we've driven.
Yeah.
Now as we enter 2025, whole load more cars coming up. I'm actually heading off to drive a car which I can't talk about, but I think it's like no, once in a
hear-
lifetime engine to cane.
You'll
So-
hear about it soon.
Yeah, so that's something that I'm looking forward to. In fact, I'm getting late. I have to get going for my flight. Thank you guys for listening to the podcast, watching the podcast. If you have any comments, obviously drop it in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you guys, and let us know what you would also like us to talk about in our next podcast. And we'll see you next week, Aatish.
Yeah. See you there.
See you next week.